What's going on, YouTube family? It's Andrea here at VW Family Farm, and I am making this video today for y'all. I've actually made a soap making video before. I've made a couple of them actually, but I've learned some tips and tricks through making it. And I've actually said a couple times that the recipe was foolproof. And now I'm eating those words because I've messed it up a couple times. But I thought, you know what? That gives me a great opportunity to show y'all what to do if your soap messes up, because it's just like anything else. You can choose to just chunk it, or you can do a little bit of work and salvage it. And that's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna show you how to make soap, but I'm gonna show you what to do if it doesn't turn out so well. So the first step is we're gonna mix up our lye water, because that is a chemical reaction. It's gonna heat the water up to like 200 degrees or something crazy. It's gonna get really hot, but that's way too hot to add it to our oils and start making soap. So we're gonna do that in advance. We're gonna do that first, and then we're gonna walk away for a bit while that cools down some. Okay, the first important step in this process is get some good gloves. And you need safety goggles, but I wear glasses anyway, so that's what I wear. But let me just put the disclaimer, you need safety goggles. Lye will burn you, but if you get a splash of it on you, don't flip out. Vinegar will neutralize it. So keep some vinegar close by that you can put some on you. If when you're blending it splashes on you, just take a little paper towel and rub some vinegar on you, you're good to go. So the first step in this process is we need 6 ounces of water, and I've got 6 ounces in this jar, and then we need 6 ounces of lye. Now this is a super important step. We're not going to take 6 ounces of lye and 6 ounces of water and dump them straight together. You will have a chemical explosion on your hands, more than likely. You're not going to take a bowl full of lye and pour a little water in it. Again, bad idea. You're going to take your water and you're going to measure out 6 ounces of lye, and we're going to add that a little bit at a time to the water. Okay, so that's half the lye. I'm going to add this in about 3 different steps. I'm not going to add all 3 ounces just yet. I'm going to get that incorporated. Now, like I said, this jar is going to start heating up immediately. Now, before you add any more lye, you want to make sure that what you added in got dissolved. Once it's dissolved, you're good to go to add some more. So I'm going to add the other half the same way, set it aside, and let it cool. Okay, so we've got our lye water cooling off to the side. That's for our fresh batch of soap that I'm going to show you how to make. And I'm going to give you some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way that work and don't work. But let's talk about failures, because I've had a few with soap making lately. I've been making soap for the fall and winter and for Christmas gifts and to sell for some Christmas gifts and things like that. And so I'm using scents that are Christmas smelling. I've made some soaps that are orange and clove and different things like that. And I have had 2 failed batches. Now both batches had clove and orange oil in them for the scent. They were essential oils. I don't know which one was the culprit, but they both behaved the exact same way. It's like they curdled, and I looked up and soap curdling is a thing. So they kind of curdled, and then they've got pools of like oil that is not hardened, I guess you'd say. I never could get it to trace. All I could get it to do was curdle. And it happened after I put the scent in. So I don't know what was the culprit, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to attempt to fix it. I'm still wearing gloves because this lye is still caustic. It has not had time to do its thing to where it's not harmful and to where the soap is safe to use. It hasn't cured, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So I'm going to keep wearing gloves, and I'm going to pop these out. Now, this is called rebatching. Normally when you rebatch soap, it's sort of hard and you're going to have to grate it up. Well, this is not hard. This is oily. So I'm going to get it in here. I'm going to turn this crock pot on low, and then I'm going to break it up. But this is just kind of crumbly. I think I can just kind of mush it up. And actually rebatched soap is called like French milled soap. It has some fancy names. There's people who actually prefer rebatched soap. So if you have a failure like I have, don't fret. You can always rebatch it. You need to add a little bit of water to it. I've been doing my research on doing this, and it says to think of the soap as a big salad, and then the water you're gonna add, or you could add milk at this point, would be like the dressing you'd put on the salad. And it's not like you're gonna drown your salad in dressing, like a light sprinkling of dressing on the salad. A good rule of thumb is 2 ounces of water per pound of soap. I have about 5 pounds of soap in here actually, and I'm probably gonna add about half a cup. So half a cup's only about 4 ounces. That's where I'm gonna start, because if you add too much water, it's just gonna take longer for that water to cure out of it and your soap to be dry and hard and ready to use at the end of this process. We're just trying to get this melted down, and I'm gonna move y'all over here and just let you look at it. I'm gonna stir it. Don't know how well y'all can see this, but it's starting to melt over here. I'm gonna pick some of it up that's around the edges. This is what we're going for, this thick mashed potato like consistency that's like getting translucent. We're gonna try to get the whole pot to that stage, and then we're gonna have to glop it back in the molds. But I'm gonna add, like I said, about a half a cup of water just to get this going, because I really need this to be thin enough to be able to work with it and get it stirred up well. So while the rebatching's going on, let's get busy and let's make a fresh batch. And let me tell you the things I've learned along the way to keep these little situations from happening. Okay, so let's make some soap. The first thing we're gonna do is measure out our oils. Now, you don't necessarily need gloves during this step, because it's just gonna be 24 ounces of lard, 10 ounces of coconut oil, and 9 ounces of olive oil. And I will put this down in the description. You're gonna probably have to watch the video to know how to do it, because I don't know that I could get all of that typed out down there. But the first thing, like I said, is 24 ounces of lard. And this is from our own pigs. So I render that, and all it takes is effort on my part. Basically, other than that, it's free. You can probably call your butcher and get some fat from pigs from them for little to nothing, because a lot of people don't want to take the time to mess with it. But it is the best lard, home rendered lard, and it is the key to making this great recipe of soap. Okay, so I got my 24 ounces of lard. Now I'm gonna do 10 ounces of coconut oil. Okay, we're gonna add the coconut oil in here, and we are gonna turn this burner on to just low to medium, and we are just trying to get these melted. Don't overheat these. That's a key to this recipe. So just melted. Okay, you can see the lard and coconut oil is all melted. It was really cloudy when it first started melting. It's starting to clear up. That tells me it's probably about the right temperature. I'm gonna test it. It's probably about 120, which is a little warm. I want this around 100. But the next step is add the olive oil in. You add that at room temperature. That will help bring down the temperature of the oils that had to be heated up in order to melt. And after we take the temperature after adding the olive oil, it's going down. It's gonna be right close to 100, which is perfect. Okay, the oils are at about 100 degrees and the lye water's at about 100 degrees. That is a key. Get them really close to the same temperature. And for this milk soap we're making, it doesn't need to be a super high temperature. You can soap a lot of soaps at 120 to 130, but you don't want to scorch your milk or curdle your milk or anything like that. So we are now going to add the lye water into the oils, and you need your gloves back on at this point, obviously. Take a wooden or plastic spoon. Make sure you get all your lye out. You need all of it. Give it a few swirls in your pot. Now that those two are mixed together, we're going to go ahead and put in our milk. Now this is 18 ounces of cold. This is cow's milk, but it's a goat's milk recipe. And now's where you need a stick blender. You would be stirring forever if you don't have one. Pouring the milk in after you've let the lye and oils react together is going to give you more of a white color of your soap. It's not going to like react with the milk as much as if you add the milk to the lye mixture. I've learned that over time. Okay, I know this isn't the best angle, but I want y'all to see as I pulse this. I'm gonna stir with this stick blender and pulse. I'm not just gonna run this continuously. And you can see it's already coming together, emulsifying. It's not thick at all, but you can see it is all together. It's looking creamy. It's like a really thin pudding at this point. That's good. You want to keep pulsing and stirring until you get a thicker pudding-like consistency. Now, sometimes if I'm having trouble getting it to come to trace, because this is still a tad thin for what I like, I will just let it rest for just a minute or two, not a long time because I don't want it to start setting up, but just a minute or two. And then I will pulse some more and stir some more, and generally I can get it to trace. Ideally, I want to get it to where if I dab my mixer on the top of it, I can still see the indentation. This is thicker than it was, but I still want to go a little further, and the reason is I don't want to pour it in the molds and then it separate back out into the oil and the lye water mixture, which it will do that. I've had it do that. If you quit too soon, you just have to make sure you are completely emulsified. Okay, so I have taken this to trace. This is a light trace. It's thick, but it's not as thick as it could get. That's as far as I'm going to take this batch because I'm not doing any type of designs on the top. That's as far as I need to take it. I just need it to be sure and be emulsified so it doesn't separate back out. That's all I was going for. It's time to add the essential oils. This is tea tree and rosemary, and for this size batch of soap, I add 2.5 ounces. So now I need to make sure I take it back to trace. All right, so final step on this fresh batch is pour it in the molds. And this will make 2 of these type of molds. I've bought these all over the internet, several different places. This batch right here will make 16 of these bars. I haven't actually weighed them, to be honest, but I can fill these molds completely up with this size batch I just showed you. All right, so I will leave it in those molds for 24 hours and then it should pop right out. I will cut those apart and stand them on their end for about 4 to 6 weeks. I'm going to show you over here some I made a couple days ago. This is some I made a couple days ago. You can see the colors kind of vary from bar to bar. I think I got the milk a little bit hotter than I intended. That's no big deal, but I have been reading up on how to keep the milk really pretty and white, and you can see these bars are a lot lighter in color. So that's it. That's all there is to soap making. The temperatures and all kinds of things that I showed you throughout this video are some tips I learned to make the soap turn out most times that I make it. And I'm not going to say every time, hence why I'm rebatching some over there. Additives and oils and different things you add in, colors, will affect your soap. So you'll just learn which soaps are your favorite and which might not have turned out so well. But you can always use the rebatching methods to fix a batch that didn't turn out. So I'm going to end this video in a few hours. I'm going to show you how this rebatching turns out. I'm actually going to take you over there right now and show you how it's going, and then I will show you the final result here in a few hours. So thanks for watching. I'm going to end it right now, but I'm also going to show you the end result later, and God bless. Okay, so this has probably been about an hour, maybe hour and a half on low in this crock pot. You can see it's getting really good and melted. I just want to get it to where all these chunks are completely melted, so it needs a bit longer. And then I'm going to get this glooped into the molds. All right, so this is ready. I'm going to glop it back in the molds and let it set up just like I did the other. It's not as pourable, so that's why I'm spooning it. It might pour, but this thing would be heavy, so I'm not going to do that. You can, I'm not going to, because I don't mind if this looks a little rough, because this is going to be the underside of the bar. But you could take a piece of like saran wrap or something that won't stick to this, or saran wrap's what I've seen people use, and smooth out the bottom of these, because they're going to have a little more, they call it rustic or rough texture on the bottom. Again, I don't mind, but those are just some options. If you want it smoothed out, you can use a spatula or whatever. So I'm going to get the rest of this put into molds. You're going to leave this for about 24 hours or maybe longer, depending on how much water you added. Just however long you can get this, till you can get this popped out of your molds.